Welcome to another episode of the Empower with Them podcast. This one's a fun episode. I'm your host, Emily Jane Saroff, and I am joined by a co-host today, my executive assistant, Emmy. So it is Empower with Eminem today, and we are going to have a bit of a discussion about some changes that have recently happened within the business, the growth that we've seen from that, and challenges and learning curves we are in the process of navigating. Emmy is here to ask questions and help us dig deeper so that we can get you guys the most value out of this topic possible. So welcome, Emmy.
Thank you so much. Glad to be back for another M&M episode.
All right, let's kick it off with the questions.
Okay, we've been working together about 4 years now, and the entire time you've had a one-to-one group coaching model, very face forward. And usually when, businesses expand and people try to scale, they automate, they want more passive income so they can take a step back and maybe enjoy their free time. But instead of going the more passive route, you've went the agency model where you're still showing up heavily for clients, not only like on social media, but with the work you're still doing yourself. So what made you want to go the agency model instead of taking that more passive route that many coaches tend to aim for?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is obviously the last 4 years, it's very much been that passive route where it has been group coaching, one-to-one coaching. And on one level, I wanted to experiment with a different kind of business model, and see, what it might feel like and look like and be like if I was to tap into something alongside of coaching. So obviously, you're not getting rid of coaching, still having that something that's actively happening. But the second reason and the main reason is because where I see that, I've worked with clients on branding for the last 4 years, and it's one thing to tell them what to do with their branding. It's another thing to take the reins and do it all for them. And me being a real creative, like that was something that did really draw me into the agency structure, is actually being able to fully put my hands into my clients' businesses and craft their brands for them. So for me, when it comes to like scalability with the agency and my vision around that, it's something I did think about because I am someone that, and we can go into human design, but like I'm a projector, which means my energy depletes really quickly. And so that's something I had to think about even in shifting into this model, because I understand that done for you obviously takes a lot more energy and is a lot more hands on. And for me, the vision I see around this is having a really boutique branding agency where we will work with a small handful of clients at one time and really deliver them high end branding results on such an intimate level so that we don't necessarily need to worry about scaling through mass numbers. We can focus on quality over quantity with the agency and yeah, really just like craft some beautiful brands. So it was mainly the idea of wanting to be able to have full reign over what my clients are doing with their brands rather than simply just telling them to go do something and then leaving it at that.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you mentioned energy because, of course, that is one of my questions. So, do you find that the energy you need to show up or provide this service or just, your day-to-day life, has the energy shifted at all working, coaching versus done for you? And if so, how have you been managing it or any
Mm.
tips or things to look out for?
Yeah, so I mean, we can go back and we can kind of start from just before the agency launched because there's lots energetically that's really like unfolded over the past few months. And it was in December where I was feeling like a big energetic low in December. I was really pulled back from my coaching business. I was really pulled back from sales and I was in like a bit of an energetic slump. There was a lot of like self-esteem work I was doing at that time. So I think it was like, going within and really like working through that is what was kind of like taking my energy away from the business front of things. But then there was this week where I was just flooded with this energy that was like pushing me in the direction of starting the agency. And it was like just this knowingness of, okay, like this inspiration and this level of like drive right now has to be happening for a reason. And it was all happening like, you know, in the direction of the idea of launching the agency. So I lent into that and I ran with that. And that energy carried me into January. And January ended up being such a massive month. We signed like 13 clients across the board. You know, like a large percentage of that being VIP day clients. And then between December and January, there were, yeah, 3 or 4 agency clients that we signed on. And so that was like a big influx. And for me, energetically, like getting to the end of January, I actually have crashed. I've crashed a bit, and it's like I'm needing to re-find my footing when it comes to the energetic side of things. And so I guess for me, where I'm noticing that my energy is being drained the most isn't so much in client delivery, but in the fact that we don't have systems fully set up, and I'm having to figure out how to set them up. And so, you know, whilst there's this energetic output going towards clients, there's also a massive energetic output going towards trying to create structure, create systems, build team. And so that's where I'm feeling the hit the most within my energy, is because there is so much that's being demanded from me right now. But at the same time, like it's not something that I'm complaining about, because I know this is just like a part of growth. Like there's always that stretch that happens. And so I'm doing things to like, you know, expand my energetic capacity, to prioritize rest, to solidify boundaries, and to ultimately set up people and systems that can then give me back more energy in the long run. So even though right now my energy is taking quite a hit from this pivot, I know it's only short term, and I know it's only because we're in this like building phase.
And hopefully these new weekly M&M episodes can be somewhat therapeutic and motivating for our week of work to come. But
Yes.
I want to go back to when you said you spent about a week feeling this energetic shift before pivoting towards
Mm.
this branding agency model. So this agency was not part of your original 3, 5, 10-year business plan.
Oh, well, it was, but I was telling myself an agency would be something down the line. Like, I think I actually had drawn out a map, and I was like, oh, yeah, my 5-year goal, like, launch an agency in like, you know, 3 to 5 years from now. But it's interesting because at the start of 2024, I really did feel a pull to step into this direction, but I didn't fully listen to that pull and I didn't fully follow it. Now, whether or not that's because it wasn't the right timing back then or just because I doubted myself, who knows? But I trust that everything unfolds just as it should and when it should. But it was early last year that I first had that nudge to be like, oh, I really want to niche down into the branding space, really become a specialist in this and see where that takes me, offer some done for you stuff. I did bring on a couple of free clients to do some done for you basic brand design for, just to play around with that. But then I kind of let it go. I kind of just like let it slide and lost the intention and the focus towards like, you know, the initial goal I had set around it. So yeah, it was really then like when December rolled around, it was like everything that I had started to envision at the start of the year just came flooding back and in like this intense wave of that like couldn't be ignored. And I think it worked out really perfectly as well, that that flooded in literally like on the cusp of going on my Christmas New Year's break. And so I think having that 2 weeks there to just kind of like sit and feel into that and then start to plan and put some things in motion was probably the thing that I needed to actually get the gears turning, because having that intentional space just like free of other distractions allowed me to stay focused on that idea that came through. So I think that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. And so when it comes to, because you've always been a big proponent of taking fast action,
Mm.
pivoting when necessary, um, so what is the step that comes after that initial fast action? Because like you said, you took action on that pull towards that branding agency, but it didn't
Mm.
end up fully following through last year. So for people who are kind of in similar situations, they're feeling
Mm.
call or a pull to do something else. They're testing it out, taking that initial quick action. What do you think is like the kind of barrier to overcome after that quick action? Because we know that's the first
Yeah.
issue, actually getting yourself in motion. What's the second one they need to watch out for?
Yeah, so I think the big point of difference was clarity in my messaging. So earlier in the year, I was like, yeah, I want to niche into a branding specialist and follow that route, but I didn't shift my messaging. My messaging stayed as the business generalist, calling out like business mentoring clients rather than calling out branding clients. Whereas the second time round, I went into it and a part of the planning was like, let's get crystal clear on what my message is and what I'm going to communicate on social media. And then I just hammered that in like every single post. Like I was posting, especially in January, I was posting 3 times a day. And so I was really just nailing in this core message of like your personal brand is your initiation into your higher self. Like that's what my message was. And that's what I would make every single post centered around. And I believe because I had such clarity and consistency in that message that allowed my audience to catch on really quickly to the new direction. And then it also kept me really aligned with where I was going, versus earlier last year, like I didn't have that clarity around my message and I therefore was not bringing that through in my content, and then therefore I was defaulting back to the old ways of speaking as the business generalist rather than the branding strategist.
And I do remember when you asked me, oh, Emmy, like in our emails, in our social media, I want
Mm.
to start bringing this diamond emoji in. And that was before you had even created the
Yeah.
logo for the diamond agency. So I want to ask why a diamond? And, your brand colors have
Mhm.
always been blue. Why not a sapphire, an aquamarine? Like, what is the significance of a diamond to you?
Mm. I love this. Now, on one level, for me, diamond, I think I can speak for every woman. I love diamonds. I love, 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 love diamonds. I'm fortunate to have a few diamonds which were like handed down to me from my mom, but I'm yet to buy myself like, my own diamond. And that's like definitely one thing that I'll do one day. But for me, like diamonds just feel luxury, they make me feel like a queen when I wear them. They make me feel premium when I wear them. And so that was one thing, is that instinctively I was drawn towards diamonds because of the way that diamonds make me feel. And then when I think about that from a branding perspective, like that's how I want to feel as a brand. And that's how my ideal clients want to feel as a brand as well. But then if we go even deeper with it, diamonds are something that are precious and very, very valuable, and everyone can see the value that is within a diamond. Now, diamonds start off in a much rougher rock form, and they need to be refined, they need to be polished, they need to be cut. So before a diamond is cut, we know it's still valuable, but it's not packaged in a way that makes, society run and reach for it. Now, if we think about brands in the same way, every single brand out there is so unique, just like a diamond. There is no two diamonds that are the same, just as there are no two brands that are the same. But what I see is that there's all of these diamonds in the branding world that are still uncut, that are still rough, that still need to be polished. And that's where the idea of like the diamond branding agency comes in, where it's like, we see you, we know that you're a diamond, behind that unpolished surface. So let us polish you, let us cut you, let us shape you into that diamond that is going to be so heavily sought after by your ideal clients. And so, there wasn't really much like this idea of like tying brands and diamonds together, it just like it made sense to me without needing to like tell the story about it. And I actually, if you can't see the video on the podcast, but like there's a image on my wall, and one of the very first things I did when I started the agency, I was like, I need to go to Officeworks, I need to buy a big piece of black paper, and I need to buy some white pencils, and I'm like, I need to draw a diamond. And that's where like it really started solidifying that, okay, this is going to be a big symbol within the brand, like being able to bring this diamond element through and being able to, call my clients diamonds. Like whenever someone signs up, I'm like, a new diamond has just joined us, and really giving my clients that permission to like see themselves in that, premium form that we're going to help bring to life.
And, I've worked with other brand agencies before, luxury brand agencies, and a lot of them hire another designer to do their logo actually instead of doing it themselves. And so the fact that you have hand drawn your own logo, I think speaks volumes to you as a designer and an artist, because not all brand strategists, brand designers do their own logos,
Well,
surprisingly.
yeah, it's funny, right? Because like even though, so and this is like one point I want to speak on, like I've got bits and pieces of our brand design for the agency mapped out, but I haven't actually yet created the fully polished, built out brand identity for ourselves. And I just want to say that, like, you don't have to have your brand fully polished and fully mapped out before you start. A big thing that I set the goal of, I was like, first task is to just sign some clients. Like, first task is to just like put it out there, spread the word, and get people to sign on and create demand. Second task is then going to be building out our systems. And then third task is going to be coming back and fully polishing the brand identity and brand positioning for moving forward. So like finalizing the logo, finalizing like all the design elements and so on. And it's interesting that like, as a maybe our listeners think it's interesting that as a branding agency, like I'm doing branding not as step one, but it's just to go to show that there is a time and place for branding. Obviously, I have a big understanding of brands, so I don't need to put it in a book to understand what my brand message is, what my brand identity is, and to be able to clearly communicate that. So I'm able to move forward with like the business process without having that fully mapped out. But where a lot of our clients come to us is because they can't create that clear image within their mind around their brand, their identity, and so on. And they need us to build out that and put that into an actual booklet, like a brand Bible for them from the get-go. So yeah, like whilst I do have bits and pieces of like logos here and this and that there, that's definitely like one of the approaching steps in the process for us to like fully build out the brand kit and integrate like that design across, our website and all levels of the business. But yeah, it's like, it's not necessary to have all of those assets done from the beginning, particularly when you have a clear grasp on what your brand identity is. You don't necessarily need that asset from the get-go.
Mhm. But I think that also helps you become your biggest case study, because you
Yeah.
didn't start with a complete branding strategy session done. You built it out brick by brick, and now
Mm.
you can clearly showcase the difference before, after, and actually have a process that, your clients can trust, because you've not only used it on yourself, but on your free beta clients, on
Mm.
your earlier clients, and the results are the same every time.
Yeah, that's it. And that's one thing that I need to look at is how um yeah, obviously the difference it makes. A big thing that I'm going to be looking at with like the done for you clients I work with is like tracking their actual growth from like before having their clear brand identity and message to after. And yeah, it's really cool. We've got a nice handful of clients that are like all diverse in different niches of the coaching world, and getting to like really start to use them as the first, and I don't want to say test subjects, but like, the first brands we get to play around with at that full done for you level. And it's been such incredible feedback that I've been getting so far. Like some of them have said that they wish that like, their only regret is not starting working with us 4 months earlier. Another one was literally like brought to tears on a call that we had when I was showing her like her brand design. And so it really goes to show that there is a very strong need for what we're offering. And the clients that are currently working with us are absolutely loving it. And we have space for a few more to come on board. But again, like I want to keep this intimate. I want to keep this very exclusive and very boutique in that we only do work with a small amount of people to just keep that quality of experience so premium. And I think that comes back again to like the whole diamond concept, right? Where it's like diamonds are something that there is a level of exclusivity to it, right? Not everyone can access or have the resources to get their hands on a diamond of their own. And so I think when it comes to like, working with a small handful of clients at a time, it really reflects that scarcity and premium element of the brand in itself.
Exactly. And that was such a good answer. But I did have one more question before I wanted to end. So I'm sure that answer will be just as good. But like you've spoken about in a lot of your content, in the core message of the branding agency is that, your personal brand is the initiation into your highest level self. So for someone who maybe is still not fully sold on branding from a business perspective, maybe they're thinking, oh, I make great sales. Like, what do I need to change? Can you talk about how maybe not only your brand, but how up leveling your brand in general also has the effects on your personal life, daily life, other aspects just outside of business results?
Mm. Yeah, I love talking about this topic. And whenever I talk about like your personal brand being an initiation into a higher level of self, I like to refer to the term of like perception, because personal branding is the art of perception. And now when I say it's an initiation, it's the act of stepping into something new, the act of starting something new. And so therefore personal branding is the act of changing your perception so that you can become someone who has a life, has the business, has the finances, has the level of self that is far greater than where you are right now. And in order to have that and in order to step into that, you need to learn how to shift your perception on two levels. The first level being your perception of self. If you do not perceive yourself as someone who has the seven-figure business, as someone who is worth listening to speak on stage, as someone who has the relationship or whatever it may be, if you do not perceive yourself as someone who has all of that first, you're never going to have it. Second of all, if your ideal client doesn't perceive you as that person also, if they don't perceive you as valuable enough, to pay the high ticket price point to and so on, or as valuable enough to sit and listen to speak on stage, again, those things aren't going to happen. So with your personal brand, we're playing with perception on two levels, the way that you see yourself and the way that other people see you. And so that in itself is such a powerful tool for shifting your reality, whether you're in business or you're not in business. And I truly, truly believe that you don't need to have a business in order to have a personal brand, because your personal brand is what people think of you. And so whether you work at a grocery store or you're studying at university or, whatever it is that you do in your life, everyone has a perception of who they believe you are. And that is speaking into the personal brand that you are consciously or unconsciously creating. So if you're not right now valuing personal brands, start to value your personal brand and start to act with intention towards how you actually want to be perceived, how you want to be viewed, and how that perception is then going to influence the rest of the life that you ultimately experience.
No, I love that. Well, did you have, I mean, I don't think there's really a final quote to end on since every one of those answers has such great quotes to pull from. But is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Or I know we have so many unique topics coming up week after week, so we don't have to put it all in one episode.
Yeah. Well, I guess for all of our listeners here today, this is a style of podcast episode we're going to be creating a lot more often. Emmy and myself, we are, the needles moving Empower with Em forward and moving the agency forward. So I think it's really valuable to be able to bring Emmy on and to have these conversations. And some weeks I might even throw the microphone over to Emmy because, she manages so much within my business that there's value we can share from her perspective as well. So stay tuned, keep listening out for these episodes. And if you would like to work with us to elevate your branding, then we have two ways you can work with us at the moment. We still have our Branding Academy, which is done with you. You can work with us for 6 months. A lot of our clients in that program decide to work with us for 12 months. And we support you every step of the way as you take action on building your personal brand. Or if you would like to jump in and become a done for you client, then that is an 8-week experience where we will literally take your brand from scratch and build it into a beautifully crafted diamond and leave you with a very tangible step-by-step plan on how to implement that into your business and into your social media. So if you would like to work with us in any capacity, the best platform to reach out is Instagram at Empower with Em, and just send us a DM and just tell us straight up that you want to work with us so that we can cut the fluff and we can get straight down to sharing all the details on how we can move forward with you.
And for those that don't know, Em's in her DMs every day. 4 years in business, it's not like random VA handling those. Like she's in her DMs. So don't be afraid to send a message thinking you're going to get a bot unless you ask for
unless you say
freebie.
plan.
Then, yes, let the bot send it to you, please.
If you
But no,
say the
Emily's
code word plan or planning or planner, then you're going to end up getting a freebie. So yes, keep an eye out on that.
But no, don't be afraid to reach out because she is happily in there doing what needs to be done and helping people how they need to be helped.
Yes, exactly. Well, guys, we will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, Emmy, for joining us, and hope you took some value away from this. Bye-bye.
So we'll see you guys next week.